Hi there. This is Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian here, also known as Psychic Cynthia. And welcome. Welcome to this time of psychic inspiration and education. We're here today as part of our Awakening Your Inner Psychic series. And this is just a taste of some of what I am sharing with some of my private students who are enrolled in my video programs. And today's topic is regarding why you should work with tarot or oracle cards to help you develop your inner psychic. And, to put it quite simply, when you work with tarot or oracle cards, it is a very fast way to stimulate the specific psychic gift of clairvoyance or psychic seeing. And I'm pointing here in the middle of my forehead and coming out from that because that's to indicate the third eye chakra, or a lot of times it's called the brow chakra traditionally, and then the third eye is thought to lie within the brow chakra. So in other words, maybe the third eye and the brow chakra aren't the same thing. Maybe the third eye is an energy matrix that rests within that chakra. But however you want to think about it, I digress. I do believe if you're watching this video, you might have heard of the third eye, or if not, just do a little research on your own. It won't take long if you'll Google that or look that up. But the third eye is known to be one of the seats of our psychic seeing. So working with oracle cards or tarot can help to awaken that. And how it does that is by helping you to engage in a set of psychic imagery. There's other ways to awaken the inner seer, by the way, but this is just an easy way. Now, what I want to get into today is helping you to decide, should you work with tarot? This is the Spiral Tarot part of it. It's just a few cards from it. That's the deck I read on mostly. Although I just got a new deck that was a gift, the Celestial Tarot, which combines tarot with astrology. Oh, I'm just loving that. That's just really cool, and I'm having fun with that. So we'll see. I don't know how much I'm going to read on that, but it might surprise you to hear me talking about tarot if you follow me or have known me for a while. I am a professional psychic medium, and in most of my work that I do with people, I don't use tools, quote unquote. I don't use tarot unless a person specifically requests that. But I do use tarot. I can read on the tarot, and I do. And I read on that for myself and my friends and my family. And if a client requests that, yes, I will read on that. So even though I don't, quote unquote, have to have tarot to do a reading, in other words, I'm not reliant upon tarot or any other divination tool to do a reading. I do know how to just open up to the inner psychic and let that come through. I still think these are wonderful tools for developing. And it's something that I do. Why would I do tarot readings in my spare time when I'm not reading for others? Why would I do that? Well, first of all, it's just super fun. Okay. I love, to look at the images and, it's just fun. Okay. But also, it helps me to stay sharp as a psychic. It helps me to work those muscles in a different way. When you use a divination tool, it is a completely different experience than just, say, going into a trance and opening up to your guides. Or even just opening up to your guides while you're, getting in your car or whatever. Okay. And of course, we want to be able to tap into that inner psychic anywhere, any place, just to naturally do that through our inner state of being, and by using simple natural tools like our breathing and relaxing and slowing down. So, that stuff is all primary and foundational. And yes, you need to know how to do that if you are going to be truly psychic. But one of the cool things about the tarot cards and oracle cards and any divination tools, I also read on the runes in the I Ching, if you're wondering what other divination systems I use. I use a lot of them. Because I've been on this path a long time. So I've taken upon myself to spend a year here, 2 years here, 3 years there, studying these different systems. And as probably most of you know who follow me, I am an accomplished astrologer as well. Astrology is very close to my heart. I love that. So It's not that I favor one over the other necessarily. But if you were to come to me and you were to say, Cynthia, I'm awakening my inner psychic and I'm on this psychic path, and I would like to stimulate my ability of psychic seeing. In other words, you want to have the ability to form pictures in your mind, or really to let those form in your mind, then I would suggest working with oracle cards or tarot. Okay? So, yes, do that. Now, should you, as you're working with the oracle or the tarot, which one should you do? I mean, should you do tarot or oracle? Do you understand they're different, first of all? Do you understand that, okay, so these are 5 cards from my Spiral Tarot, the major arcana, just a few favorites of mine. And I won't go into what they all are right now because this is not a video about each individual card. So that's tarot. And this is not the quote-unquote traditional tarot. That would be the Rider-Waite. The Rider-Waite, can be a good starter deck. It's still around, and I have that somewhere, but it's not the one I mainly read on now. It's probably the one I learned on many years ago, but I honestly couldn't even tell you. Okay, I don't even remember anymore. I do remember that I have had several different tarot decks throughout the years. And in fact, I went through a major clean out about 4 years ago of all my tarot and oracle decks and got rid of many. And I got rid of all my other tarot decks, except for a small Rider-Waite I have and then this Spiral Tarot. That's because this is the tarot I read on. And some people will read on a few different tarots, but generally speaking, most people that read the tarot that I know, they'll have one that is their deck, okay? So now you don't have to worry about that right away, and that's sort of a process of elimination too. Sometimes the only way to figure that out is by just working with different sets. And by the way, that's true of all of this, whether it's oracle or tarot. But the tarot, this is a traditional system that supposedly many of these symbols came out of Egypt and India and Atlantis and all the ancient cultures. So this has been around a very long time. And with the tarot, there are many different decks in that there are many different, the artists have different depictions of the tarot cards, but it's the same cards, okay? It's the same, 78 cards, or is it 76? I always get that number mixed up. I know I should be more scientific about it. Anyway, 76, 78 cards. It's the same cards, in every deck, but with different artwork according to the artist. So it's the same archetypes, the same energy themes. And the cool thing about the tarot, it's very complete in many ways. In other words, you have the major arcana. There's 22 in the major arcana. So there's only 22, and then the rest of all those 70-something, those are minor arcanas. And those 22 cards, they contain the energy patterns of the entire universe. And then you have the minor arcana, which fill in the details of day-to-day life, the mundane stuff. So I believe, at least, that it's possible to read about just about any situation that you might encounter, any situation you want to get some information about. It's possible to do that on the tarot. Tarot is very comprehensive. It's a little bit like astrology that way. Now, I think astrology is even more comprehensive, and astrology is probably the most comprehensive system in my experience. But it also takes the longest to really learn and master. We're looking at a long span of years. So, and tarot takes some time to master. That's true too. But it's like anything else. If you want to do it, you can get your deck and get a book or 2 or 3 and start with one, okay? And just dive in and start working with it. So, but the important thing to understand about tarot, what makes tarot different than oracle cards really, is that tarot is more of a set system. You could buy 15 different tarot cards and they would essentially be the same in terms of the archetypes that are available. And there are there's a lot that you can read off of on tarot. So it's going to have broader applications for you. So in that respect, I'm really a fan of the tarot. And if you are a more, what should we say, serious student of psychicism, if you really, you have the time and you are willing to devote the time to learning the tarot, it's something worthwhile. Now, you can't learn it all right away, but you can get started with it right away. You could get yourself a deck and get yourself a book and just start doing readings, read the book, and start learning about it. Maybe you just start learning it card by card. Actually, if you're just starting with the tarot, what I would recommend, there's many ways to learn, but I would recommend that you just start with the major arcana, which is 22 cards. And I would probably recommend learning them 2 at a time. Study skills, right? These are just basic study skills. 2 or maybe 4 at a time. And just pull those cards out of your deck and start working with them and really learning them. And, if you do that, let's say you study 2 cards a week out of 22, then that would be, what would that be, like 12 weeks? Not quite, no, 11 weeks. 11 weeks. So in 11 weeks, which would be about 3 months, you would have learned the whole entire major arcana, And if you get to that point, by that time, you'll be able to learn the minor arcana much faster. So what I'm saying is you could just start reading on the major arcana first. You could even take your deck and put the rest aside. So that's just a suggestion. That's one way to learn. There are other ways to learn. And it kind of depends to some extent how much enthusiasm you have for learning the tarot, how much time, energy, and all of that. So, but you only need one deck to get started, one deck that really speaks to you. Now, oracle cards are sort of a later development, really, at least in the mainstream. And when I was coming up in training in my psychicism initially, I don't really think there were oracle cards. There might have been 1 or 2. But it's not like now where everybody has their oracle cards, right? So oracle cards are a little bit different than tarot because each oracle card set is its own distinct divination system. And so, okay, if you learn tarot, now I know it takes a little longer, okay, I get that. But if you spend the time to learn, say, those 22 major arcana, and let's say you're working on the Spyro Tarot, like I am, okay? Or you're working on Rider-Waite, or whatever your favorite tarot is. And actually, I'd be interested to hear that. If you want to comment below and tell me, for those of you who read tarot, what's your favorite tarot? Or if you'd like to get readings on that tarot, I'm always interested in hearing about your experiences with that. But if you learn to read tarot on any tarot deck, and let's say later, you want to go read on another tarot deck, you'll be able to do that with the skills that you have learned, especially if you've actually learned the meanings of the cards. Now, we'll talk about that later because there's 2 main different ways to learn tarot, and one involves learning the traditional meanings of the cards, and one does not involve that, so they're like opposites. But let's just say you do learn the meanings of those cards. Then you can transfer that to whatever tarot deck that you're using. Now, each tarot deck is unique in that the energy and the vibe, of the artist is imprinted on it. So, that is different and might evoke other psychic awarenesses within you. There's so much difference, even though all the traditional meanings are the same. There are really a lot of variances in the artwork of the tarot deck. So, it's like the artist on a tarot deck is a language within the language, if that makes any sense, the artistry and the artwork. But it's still the same language. It's more like, you got these different interpretations there, like dialects of the tarot, right? But if you know the language, you'll know it no matter what tarot deck you're reading on. But that's simply not true with oracle cards. With oracle cards, each deck is its own universe. So, if you have, say, an angel oracle card, and by the way, there's many angel oracle cards by all these different authors and people. So you can have an angel oracle card by this person and an angel oracle card set by this person and that person. And you have to learn the meanings for each one of those sets. Now, what's easy about oracle cards, though, is that, a lot of times they have a message printed right on them or, something like that. Now, not all of them, but many of them do. I mean, many of them will have these little pithy affirmations, or, they might say something like, speak your truth, or you know what to do, follow your intuition, clear up your diet, those kinds of things, okay? So if you have like a set of oracle cards that has this little message printed right on it, that's really handy. I get it. And maybe that's where you're at right now. Maybe, you don't want to commit a lot of time to studying and memorizing or any time. Maybe you just like, hey, I just want an oracle card deck that has some, messages printed on it that I can look up. That's okay. Okay, you can start with that. But in terms of awakening the inner psychic and especially the inner seer, you'll need to learn to at least work with the images. And that's going to be for future videos in the series. Okay, we're not going to get into that tonight. Tonight I'm helping you to sort of navigate the issue of tarot versus oracle card, or tarot or oracle card. Where do you go if you're getting started? Do you just use oracle cards or do you go for the tarot? And I guess what I'm saying here is it's a personal choice, but I'm just pointing out some of the differences. And, I do feel that you get a much richer experience reading the tarot. If I haven't already said that, I'm trying to indicate that here. In most cases, very few oracle decks that I have seen, and I have seen a lot, very few can offer anywhere near the depth of the tarot. But also the tarot requires more study. So it's kind of you got to balance it and weigh it. And there are some oracle card systems that I've seen that I feel do offer you more opportunity to psychically engage. I mean, that's what I would look for in terms of if you're watching these videos and you're not just looking for an easy oracle card deck just to give you a little, cute message, but you really want to engage your psychic muscles. You want to build those muscles. You want to build your intuition, right? Your ability to make those connections and feel and see. Then you want to look for, if you're going to use oracle card decks or a deck, you want to look for a deck that engages you emotionally and spiritually and also in your inner world. I mean, when you look at those images on that card, let's pretend it had no words or very little. I mean, can those images, do they tell you a story? That's what I want you to look for when you're selecting your deck. If you're working with me, through these videos or just working on your own path, you've got to have some meat to your oracle card, okay? There's got to be some sustenance on that deck. And one that I work with, this is just an example, and I'm not saying that you need to work with this one because, dear one, you have to find the one that works for you, okay? But this is just an example. I really like the, here's the box too, so you can see it. I like the Heart of Fairy Oracle. And this is by Brian and Wendy Froud. And by the way, I think he also just has the Fairy Oracle. And you see that is spelled, you see how that's spelled F-A-E-R-I-E? There are different spellings of fairy. So now, I'm really in tune with the fairy realm, and that's something that's a big part of my spirituality and always has been, and just nature and the trees and the garden. I'm a real earth-based kind of fairy, although I do love the water too. So, I have some fairy decks. I have multiple fairy decks, and that really speaks to me. I have one or two angel decks, but it's the fairies that really speak to me. And that's the other thing. You have to know what really speaks to you as a person, okay? It's not... maybe your best friend got a deck and, they think it's so awesome, but what if that's not, resonating with you? So it isn't just what's popular or what somebody else says, but anyway, I mean, this is a deck that I feel resonates strongly with me, and here's the back of the cards. You can see the nice heart. These are actually relationship reading cards. So that's another thing to think about with oracle cards. Oracle cards are not like the tarot in that the tarot has all these different possibilities. Remember earlier I said it has all the archetypes, so it can answer almost any possible question. I mean, it's not going to be good for like, stock market numbers or anything like that, I don't think. Or that would be a very, you'd have to learn how to read it that way. I don't know how to read it that way. But you could do, for example, a relationship reading with the tarot. You could do a career reading. You could do a reading about your, school situation, family situation, all kinds of things, right? But oracle cards, because of their nature, they're limited, and I mean, some cards are going to work better for certain things. So these are designed actually for relationship readings, although I use them for many other topics because, you can read your relationship to that situation, right? So anyway, and let me just show you some of these. His artwork is really interesting. You can see here we have the shapeshifter. So these don't have, what you're going to notice, they don't have little pithy sayings. They just have the name of the character, the figure. Here we have, the leaving. And that's part of this. These cards, they're all about a journey in the land of faith. So the leaving, so the little boy or the little girl, we don't know for sure that it's a boy, the person is setting off on her adventure, right? The quest. There are a few ones that have no words. And I like those, the wild cards, because then you really will interpret them fully off your inner psyche. The Smith. So here's the thing, these pictures are activating my inner psychic when I look at them, and they might be activating yours now too. I don't know. Maybe one of them will speak to you about a situation in your life. And so just by looking at those pictures, it's stimulating my own inner psychic, and other stories and pictures are forming in my mind. So I'm getting psychic data right away. And that's the same with tarot, by the way. Just looking at that picture, ideas will be stimulated within you. But what I would also suggest, okay, this is whether you're working with tarot or the oracle cards. Whatever you choose, dear one, I would suggest familiarizing yourself with the system, reading the book that comes with it. This is kind of controversial because actually it's not how I was trained. I was trained that you buy a tarot deck, because remember, there weren't oracle cards when I started out, so you couldn't go buy an oracle card deck. But you buy a tarot card deck and you throw the book away. And then you just work with that image psychically and see what it tells you. And by the way, I got very good psychically as a result of that. So I don't, resent that training. I don't regret that training. But then years later, actually this was when I was earning my PhD in metaphysics. And I was already learning a little bit on my own, but I had to learn the traditional meanings of the tarot cards so I could pass this test, okay? I had to learn those meanings. And wow, it opened up a lot. Just so much more was available to me because it enriched my psychic language skills. So whether you're going to read on the tarot or if you're just going to go out and get an oracle card deck that say has 40 cards or whatever, read the book. I'm going to tell you, read that book, familiarize yourself, especially with the oracle card deck. I would say even more so, because the tarot, at least you're dealing with universal archetypal symbols. Those symbols are archetypes, which means they are embedded in the human consciousness or unconsciousness. You know the meanings of those symbols somewhere. But the oracle cards, it's all random. Like, depending on the system, they might have some archetypal symbols, but it's so imprinted with the artist energy. You need to know what the artist and the maker, the channeler, what were they intending this to be about? You need to know that. I think you do, at least. I think it would help. Okay, you don't have to know that. I should say that. You don't have to know it. But if you do, it will help enrich your understanding of the reading, and it will give you another, it will give you that dialect to work with, to help you. It will give you more tools to awaken your inner seer. So that's it. That's what I came on to say today. I do encourage you to, right off the top, begin working with tarot or oracle. Find a set that speaks to you. You'll know it when you see it. And you don't have to only limit yourself to one, but I would like to see you working with one at a time. So if you happen to go online and you see, and I've done this before, I did it a couple months ago. I bought two, not one, but two new fairy decks. And then they got here, and here's what's interesting. The one that I was really wanting, so I bought two. One I really wanted, And the other, I didn't know if I really wanted, but I thought I'd check it out. Well, when they got here, the one that I really wanted, I didn't even resonate that much with. And the one that I bought as an afterthought, oh my gosh, it just grabbed me so much. And that's different than this one. I've been reading on the Heart of the Fairy Oracle for a few years now, at least. So anyway, I got a new oracle I'm working with, and I didn't know that that was going to be the one that grabbed me, but it did. And so I'm just working with that one, right? And then I decided to pick back up on my runes again, which I do those, and then I put that oracle card set aside to work on my runes, okay? Which is a whole different other topic. But what I'm saying is, if it's important enough to study and you think it's going to help you on your psychic path, then it's important enough to focus on that one oracle for a little while. It doesn't have to be forever. It might just be a week or two or a month. I think ideally 1 moon cycle is a good amount of time to give to something. And then at the end of it, you can decide if you'd like to go further. Those are my tips for getting started. The important thing is to get started, dear one. I thank you for watching, and until next time, bright blessings on your journey.